Hello, this is going to be a video about the 2023 CDL pre-trip for a Class B license. That means bus, school bus, tour bus. Before I start, I would like to give you some background of details on why you do what you do when you take the CDL test. I know many of you might not be mechanically inclined and you're just taking the CDL for the first time. Maybe you're a trucker and you've been driving for 20 years and you just need a passenger endorsement or a school bus endorsement for your license, and all this information will be known to you. But if you're new to this, it's good to know the reasons behind what you're doing in the test and why you're telling the examiner what you're telling him. Like, for instance, all the pressures on the air brake, and you have to be very specific. And that is probably one of the most important things on the test, the air brake test. So that's why now they want you to do it first. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to sit down, the examiner is going to be there, and you're going to start with your brake test. So if you know how it works, and why you're testing what you're testing, and why it is important to know about pressures and the warning signs and the warning buzzers, and why does the brake pop out at a certain pressure. So let's talk about brakes in general. The easiest one to know is your bicycle. Everybody knows what a bicycle looks like. You have your wheels, you have your little pads for the brakes, and the power to the brakes is your hands. You squeeze the brakes, those pads squeeze against the wheel and stop it. A car, a truck, a bus, same concept, except that you have a disc. That's why they're called disc brakes, or they're also called rotors. The rotor is behind the wheel, and there's two pads that when you push the brake, squeeze that rotor, stop the wheel. In the back, you might have drum brakes. Same concept, except there's a big metal drum. Inside, you have the pads. Instead of squeezing in, they go out when you push the brake against the walls of that drum, and they stop the wheel. In a car, the power to it is hydraulic, meaning there's an oil. When you push the brake, that oil pressure puts the pressure on the pads. On an air brake system, obviously, the power is the air. Now, there's a major difference on the air brake system. In your car, you have your parking brake, right? Normally you have a lever. When you pull the the brake pads in the rotors or the drums in the back will lock the wheel so your car doesn't roll down the hill. Same thing in the bus. When you pull the parking brake, that is what it is, a parking brake. But it is also an emergency brake. So if you lose the air in the vehicle, that brake will pop on its own without you doing anything. If the air gets a little too low, somewhere between 45 and 20 psi, that brake will pop. And if you're going 60 miles an hour, those pads are going to do this and brake the bus. Suddenly, your passengers are going to fly and get hurt. That's why you have to know that your warning system is working. At around 55 or above, the warning light is going to come out and the buzzer is going to start alerting you that there's something wrong and you're losing air. So you would pull off the road. If you don't have the warning signals working and you don't pay attention and you lose that air pressure and you go below 45, between 45 and 20, and that brake pops, you're going to slam on your brakes on the highway. And that's not a good thing. That's what you're testing. That's why you're telling the examiner, I'm looking for my warning lights at a certain pressure, 55 or above. And then I keep fanning my brakes and that brake will pop between 45 and 20. That is the reason behind it. You have to know that the system is working properly, and also you're testing for any leaks. You're listening for leaks, and you're looking for the needles to stay when you push the brake and you tell them I'm going to count for a minute and I'm going to make sure that I don't have any leaks, that's what you're doing. Basically, making sure you don't have any leaks. So, now that we know that, I'm going to give you a little pause here, and then you can look at the minutes and see what the minute where we are going to start the actual test. So, the examiner is going to come in the bus with you. They're most likely going to sit in the first seat there. There's my imaginary examiner. And you're going to say, okay, I'm going to start my test now. My seat is secure and it's adjusted for me. I drove the bus here, so I know that. My mirrors are already adjusted for me also because I drove the bus. My seat belt is in good shape. It's not frayed or broken. And it also latches correctly. I'm going to put the air on my door. Make sure it works. And when I turn my electric, the first thing I'm going to do is look at my indicators and make sure that the ABS light comes on and then goes off. If the anti-lock brake system light stays on, that means my anti-lock brakes are not working. I would not take the vehicle. So I'm turning it. In this particular vehicle, the lights are up there. You most likely will have them on your dashboard here. And that is the computer. And there's my ABS light. It just came on and just went off. That means my ABS system is working. Now I'm going to turn my bus on. And I'm going to put it in fast idle so that the air pressure builds up. Just a little tip. When you park the bus before you take the test, pump it down so that the air pressure in your gauges goes below 90. That means when you turn the bus on, that governor is going to kick on the compressor for the air tanks, and you're going to have the possibility to see your gauges go up, and you're going to hear that psh, meaning the compressor is done filling the tanks and you're full between 120 and 140 psi, and you mentioned that to the examiner. So my air pressure is now within operating range between 120 and 140, and I'm going to start testing my brakes. For that reason, I'm going to turn off the engine and then turn back on the electric without turning the engine on so that my gauges are functioning. And I'm going to release my parking brake, simulating that I'm going down the road, obviously without my parking brake engaged. I'm going to put pressure on my foot brake, and after an initial loss of pressure, I would count for a minute and make sure that I don't lose any more than 3 psi's in 1 minute. I'm starting now, my foot is on the brake, and I'm counting for a minute. At this point, most likely the examiner is going to say, assume the minute went by and your pressure is good, or they might have you do the whole minute, and then at the end of the minute you're going to say, okay, the minute has passed, my pressure is still good, I haven't lost any more than 3 psi in that 1 minute. So now I'm going to start fanning my brake. That means pumping, so that the pressure starts going down, and I should have a warning light come on at 55 or above. In this particular case, we're not going to hear a buzzer because the engine is off. When the engine is on, you would also have an audible buzzer. I'm starting to pump my brakes, and again, my lights are up here in this bus. Yours would probably be in the dashboard, and I'm looking for and there is my low air light just came on, and I'm around 65 psi. So that's working. I'm going to continue to fan my brakes, and between 45 and 20 psi, my emergency brake should pop. Meaning if I'm going down the road and I lose air and I don't realize, it'll stop the bus if it gets below between 45 and 20 psi. I'm looking for that to pop. And there you could hear it pop, and I'm around 35, 40 psi. That means my emergency brake is working. Now I'm going to turn the engine on, and as you can hear, there's a buzzer that's telling me that I'm low in pressure. I'm going to put it in fast idle so that the pressure will start coming up. While that is happening, I'm going to start looking at my indicator lights so that my four ways, my indicator lights are working. My right turn signal is working. My left turn signal is also working. My high beams are working. If you had a school bus, you would also check that your indicator lights for your 8-way system is working. You put your master on, you turn your yellows on, and you mention that the yellows are working, and you open the door and you mention my red lights are working, and also in my mirror I can see my stop arm is working. Okay, now there's two more tests that I want to do for the air brakes, and I'm waiting for that air pressure to go back up to between 120 and 140, and we should be able to hear for that air tank to cut off. And I'm now around 120. Around 130 now. And any minute now we should, there's the air, that means the tank is full. So I'm not going to test that my parking brake holds the bus. If I ever have to park on an incline, I want to know that the bus is not going to roll down the hill. For that, I'm going to put it in gear. In some buses, you have to release the brake, put it in gear, and then put the brake back on. You have to know what your vehicle does. Anyhow, my parking brake is engaged. I am in gear. I'm gonna put some gas pedal up to around 1200 RPM. Don't overdo it because it's not good for the transmission. There's a lot of pressure on the transmission. So I'm going to give it a rev up. And the bus did not move at all. That means my parking brake is working. Now I'm going to test my service brake, which is my foot brake, by releasing it. And I'm going to move up between 3 and 5 miles an hour. And I should not feel, when I brake, I should not feel the steering wheel going to either side, meaning there's something wrong or there's any jerkiness when I brake. So I'm going to start that. I'm going 3 to 5 miles an hour, and I apply the brakes, and the steering wheel did not move to either side, and I did not feel anything wrong with the brakes. I'm going to put it in neutral, parking brake, idle down, and now I'm going to turn the engine off, turn back on the electric so that I can talk about my dashboard and my gauges. That's the computer doing its thing. we already talked about my indicator lights. They are working. My dashboard, I have a heated mirror switch for the mirrors if they get foggy. I have electric adjustment for my mirrors. They're already adjusted for me. Obviously my parking brake is here. My door, and in this case I have a back door, so I'm making sure that it operates properly and the back door is open. Now I close the back door, close the front door. We have the electric switch, then a push button to start the engine. My four-ways, we already know they're working. Fast idle, and then we have all the inside lights, and I just turned them on and they're all working. My transmission pad, drive, neutral, reverse, and I also have a down and up arrow to manually shift. Then continuing on, I have my wipers. I make sure that they work. They are working. And my washer fluid is also working. Then I have my dimmer for the dashboard. Now we have heaters for the driver area, including the defroster, which is very important. On a rainy day, you don't want to have a windshield fogged out, but you cannot see out, so I'm going to make sure they work. That's my fan, and I can feel the air of the defroster coming on. We also have a heater for the passengers, and I'm going to make sure they work. They're working. In a school bus, you might have several switches for different heaters in the passenger compartment. You make sure they work. I have in this particular bus, I have a kneeler, and it's working. I also have a retarder switch, meaning it's a Jake brake or an engine brake. We normally ride with it on. This particular bus is equipped with a ramp for the wheelchairs, and I'm going to operate that ramp for you. You turn it on and it will deploy, and it's working properly. And then we'll bring it back up. If you're in a school bus and you have a lift in the middle of the bus or the back of the bus, you would also ask the examiner if you need to operate it, and you should know how to operate it. There's a two-way radio here, and then other stuff that is not really part of the test. My steering wheel is secure. My horn is working. Then you move up to your mirrors. My student mirror or passenger mirror is attached, secure, not cracked or broken. I also have cameras. In this particular bus, we have two facing the front, and they look at traffic. And we also have inside cameras. In this particular bus, we have one in the middle that points towards the passenger area, one that points to the driver area, and one up here that points to the entrance to monitor people coming in the bus and getting off the bus. This pretty much takes care of, the windshield we already talked from the outside, but from the inside we don't see any cracks or anything wrong with the windshield. And we already talked about the wipers. So that pretty much takes care of that part. Now I'm going to ask you, please, you ask the examiner, if you could go out and help me check that all my lights are working properly. So the examiner is going to stand in front of you, and you are going to tell him or her what you're checking for. So you're going to close your door, and you're going to tell him, okay, my left turn signal working. They're going to give you a thumbs up. Yeah, it's working. My right turn signal working. Yes, it is. My four-ways are working. Good. All my clearance lights are working. Yes. My high beams are working. Yes, they're working. If you're in a school bus, you're going to do the same for your 8-ways. You're going to turn your master on. You're going to turn your yellows on. You're going to open your door Your reds are on, your arm is working, and your crossing arm is working. Good. Now you're going to close the door. You're going to ask them to go to the back and check. And they're going to go into the corner of the bus, and you're going to be able to see them in your rear view mirror. And you're going to do the same thing. Left turn signal, right turn signal, four ways, brake lights in this case, and your backup lights. Okay, they're working. Same thing, school bus, yellows are working, open the door, the reds are working, your stop arm is working. Let them back into the bus, and hopefully they're going to say every light works, and we're good. Close the door, and now I'm going to do the interior of the bus. First thing I'm going to check is my emergency equipment. In this particular bus, I have a fire extinguisher that has a tag that is current, and the needle is in the green, meaning is in working order. I also have 3 triangles back here. You need to know where these things are in your bus. They could be in the bulkhead up in the school bus. They could be under the first couple of seats. Know where they are. I also have, in a school bus, I should have a body fluid and an emergency aid kit. And also, if you have a bus that has fuses, you should have extra fuses. In this particular bus is breakers, so we don't have fuses. That takes care of my emergency equipment. Now I'm going to talk about the general condition of the inside of the bus. My entrance is clear. There's no tripping hazard. We know that our door works. My aisle is clear. There's no debris and no tripping hazard. In this particular case, you have steps. My steps are good. The lights are working. There's no tripping hazard. The back door, we already know it works. The seal around it is good. This particular bus has handles for the passengers and straps. They're all secure and bolted. You're going to look at the seats, make sure that they're all secure. The sitting area, they're all bolted down and secure. You're going to check all the seats. Going up, you're going to talk about the windows. All the glass is good, not cracked. In this particular bus, you have 1, 2, 3, and 4 windows that are also emergency windows. And you would tell them how they work. I'm not going to do it now, but you're going to pull the handle. In a school bus, you're going to make sure that the alarm sounds when you pull the handle, so the students, when they do that, the driver knows that they're doing that. And these windows will open, swing out. In this particular bus, we have a hatch in the back. Some school buses have hatches in the front also. And you're going to mention the fact that you would turn that red knob to the open position. And you're going to push out and the hatch will come out. That's an emergency exit also. There's an extra camera in the middle of the bus here for monitor the passengers. All the ceiling, all the panels are good, not broken, not hanging. All the lights are working and the covers for the lights are working. In a school bus you might have individual lights. So basically, if you have a wheelchair, if you're equipped for a wheelchair, you want to talk about the straps. You're going to mention the fact that the straps are good, not broken. And this is where you would secure your wheelchair. And again, if you have a lift in the middle or the back of the bus, know how to work it. In this particular bus, we have an extra mirror right here. That's to be able to see passengers exiting from the back door, and it's secure, not cracked or broken. That pretty much concludes our inspection of the inside of the bus. Hopefully this was helpful, and good luck in your endeavors.